We're for free trade. We're for fair trade. We're for free trade. We're for fair trade. Fair trade, free trade, which means no controls, no tariffs, no nothing. Dump whatever you want on us, but not the other way around. And that's the issue, is that if the world wants to be in an orgy of truly free market and ship anything around you want, do anything you want, that would probably actually be good for innovation and overall a good thing. But not when you're 50 years behind the 8 ball of being selectively screwed over and your industry's been transferred. And it's not an orgy. We are chained up by our ankles with a line of 180 countries raping us. And I hate to use that analogy, but that's what it is. So, if you go back to the eve of the Gulf War, the second Gulf War in 2003, it was then private citizen Donald Trump, who was on Fox News twice and CNN once, in the clips we can find, saying, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think we should go in there. Saddam Hussein is not a good guy, but he's nothing compared to some other people in the regime. Why are we destabilizing the area? But if we go in, it should be quick and we should get out fast. They would then take the end of that quote in the Washington Post, the New York Times, and cut it off and have him say, we need to get in and get out quick. No, he said, we shouldn't do this, but if we're going to do it, we need to get in and get out quick. Now, the left hated that fact that they'd all been pretty much pro-war, that Trump had been right. It was also Senator Rand Paul that came out and was against the war ongoing, but he wasn't obviously in office back when all of that started. In fact, he's just up for re-election here after his first election as a freshman to the U.S. Senate. And that whole wave that's brought Trump in, and the Tea Party and the Freedom Caucus and the rest of it. So that said, everybody is freaking out over John Bolton, and I'm not. Because Trump brings in a big, diverse group of people. Take the outgoing economic advisor, Mr. Cohn. Well, he disagreed with Trump on globalism and nationalism and on tariffs and all the rest of this. And Trump used him for a year to find out how the system worked, to make all the contacts. And now he's gone. McMaster is a globalist and has been leaking and has been giving intel to ISIS and Al-Qaeda. We know that. He's been playing a double game. And Trump's gotten rid of McMaster. Remember when McMaster went on television last year, back in April and May, and said, we're going to have an invasion of Syria. We're going to take Assad out. Trump said, no, we're not. They didn't start the war. We're going to kick ISIS and Al-Qaeda out. Then we're going to stabilize the area and try to have a coalition government with Saudi Arabia and others being part of it. And now that's happening. The beginnings of that's happening. So Trump is really pragmatically, whether it's North Korea or whether it's Syria, really trying to stabilize things, but doing that through positions of strength, saying to China, no, you're not allowed to build artificial islands all over the South China Sea, right off the coast of the Philippines, even in old ancient Chinese maps that are 1,000 years old. They don't claim that they own that area. They've never had claim on it, and it's out of control. So Trump's got U.S. warships right there in their face, escorting Japanese and South Korean and Saudi Arabian and British and Moroccan and American ships through there. And that's because that's what the United States is doing, is securing our economic position, using our military to protect our seaways and to protect our commerce and industry, but not using it to go start wars, not using it to destabilize, not using it to stir things up. Trump is a businessman. He is pragmatic. He knows real warfare, 90% of it, is economic and informational. Less than 10% is physical. The communist Chinese have got 98% of the world's rare earth minerals when they didn't have any of it 50 years ago. They've got giant farming operations in Latin America, Africa, Asia, you name it. They are rapidly expanding, and it would be the Chinese century, headed up by a communist dictatorship that's anti-American and very, very dangerous. Trump realizes the single-pronged spear attack of military power is not going to do it. We need the pincer attack of military power, economic power, but with a trifecta, the cultural superiority of free market Americana. That is the trifecta, and that beats the communist Chinese and their monopoly command and control system. They are a joke unless America basically doesn't use its gravitas and its soft power. And so Trump got up there with the vice president and said the era of economic surrender is over. We got these clips coming up. He also talked about how he meets with the South Korean and the Chinese dictator and, all the rest of them. And they smile, they laugh. They know it was globalism. They know it was the Trilateral Commission. Set up 40 years ago, 41 years ago. They know it was all done to siphon off the United States wealth and build it overseas where it's command and control and vertically integrated. And so they've got $500 billion, depending on how you slice it, 400, 600 billion of our $900+ billion trade deficits with China. More than half of it is. And he's saying, you're lucky it's only 60 billion. That's why it's the first of many orders. Because you guys are screwing us over. And you guys are using your own multinational power of all these groups of countries, as President Trump said, coming together, Europe, communist China, you name it, to screw the United States, because the other countries want deals. South Korea just doesn't let China push it around. Japan doesn't do that, vice versa. Same thing with other BRICS countries, same thing with the EU. They all make deals with each other constantly. Horse dealing, horse trading on who's going to get this, who's going to get that. It's all reciprocal minutia. Instead, we have this fake libertarian movement that's not libertarian, that's economic surrender. The Heritage Foundation, all of it, runs up this huge white flag back in the 70s. It had already begun before that. And says, we're for free trade. We're for fair trade. We're for free trade. We're for fair trade. Fair trade, free trade, which means no controls, no tariffs, no nothing. Dump whatever you want on us, but not the other way around. And that's the issue, is that if the world wants to be in an orgy of truly free market and ship anything around you want, do anything you want, that would probably actually be good for innovation and overall a good thing. But not when you're 50 years behind the 8 ball of being selectively screwed over and your industry's been transferred. And it's not an orgy. We are chained up by our ankles with a line of 180 countries raping us. And I hate to use that analogy, but that's what it is. We got our hands on our ankles. We're getting annihilated politically, financially, culturally. We're paying for all of it, going into massive debt because criminals hijacked our country and leveraged it to build their own global empire. And now, at the 11th hour, here comes Trump, who isn't out to get the country, and he just tries to do a little something for us. It's almost like giving us a wet rag for our forehead while they slit our throat. And you see oxygen come back into the economy, and you see things start turning around. And the globalists are pissed because they know if you wake up to that and understand this was by design, their game is over. Yeah, the Asian age gets it. Free trade, a corporate scam. That just means they dump whatever they want on you and exploit you, and then have regulations on the other side so you can't sell anything. One-way streets aren't libertarian. They're frauds. And Trump is in there like a bull in a china shop, letting them know the day of America's surrender is over.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Gonna hit me? Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
come to show them where I am. Not nice.
Thought you couldn't air press on nails because of all the active things you do? Recolored in 7 luscious hues. Just...
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. These signals being sent through...
There is a war on for your mind. Our signal has reached more than 2 billion people. But the enemy is now aware of the fact that we've broken through and are moving to block us on every front. The only way you're going to be able to see our videos and articles is to visit Infowars.com itself and hand share the videos and articles to everyone you know. The signal is getting through and is exposing and defeating the globalist when we're able to get it through. But they're admittedly expanding their operations to suppress us, so only you can boost the signal. Only you can defeat the globalist. We're in this together. I salute you for your work, and I ask all of you to redouble your efforts.
There is a signal broadcast every second of every day through our television sets.
I'm just trying to warn you folks, the television is a giant LED weapon system. It's so advanced.
Shows it to him, comes right back, go one way and come back in the other and get in the air. His hometown, northwest of Belgrade. And tonight, their family, his family, is watching in the living room at home. And one of the great new technologies that we have here at ESPN is that we can look at you in your house through your TV.
You know what? You got a little courage. Stand up for yourself.
Waging war on corruption. It's Alex Jones coming to you live from the front lines of the Infowar.
Infowar's Life is bringing you a breakthrough in modern medicine. Introducing Pollen Block. We have found an extraordinary new, natural way to alleviate seasonal distress symptoms, including promoting clear nasal and sinus passageways, eye comfort, and respiratory function. In the 1960s, researchers in France noticed that people who ate certain quail eggs experienced less seasonal immune and inflammatory responses. They began studying this effect in published trials, and decades later, we now have the fruit of this research, a fast-acting, chewable tablet that helps alleviate seasonal distress symptoms. Pollen Block is natural and effective. It is not an antihistamine. In fact, current research has found that it actually acts by blocking the activity of tryptase, which is an enzyme that amplifies immune and inflammatory responses in the body. Go outside and enjoy the air you breathe. Head to InfoWarsLife.com and grab a pack of our Pollen Block chewable tablets.